All right, in this video we're going to be talking about comparing and ordering real numbers. Comparing and ordering real numbers. So this first example I have a decimal, I have a percent, and I have a fraction. Now when I'm comparing and ordering numbers, putting them in order from least to greatest, greatest to least, or just comparing two numbers and figuring out which one is greater in value or lesser in value, it's best if you have the numbers in the same format. Meaning, if I have a decimal, fraction, percent, I need to turn them all into decimals, all into a fraction, or all into a percent. Now, me personally, I usually find it easier to turn them all into decimals. So in this video, that's how I'm going to show you, is to turn each of your numbers, if they're in a percent or a fraction, turning them into a decimal to be able to compare them. Then we can line them up based upon their place value and compare that way. Now, if you would prefer to turn them all into fractions or percents, you may do so. But yeah, we'll do decimals today. So let's start with the problems we have here, and let's put them in order from least to greatest. Okay, least to greatest. So now my first one, 0.8, 8/10 is easy to convert into a decimal because it's already a decimal. 0.88 is 0.8. 8/10. Great. Now 75%, as we know, percent means out of 100, so 75% is 75 hundredths. And if we know place value, we know hundredths. This is easy to convert into a decimal. This would be 75 hundredths. If I didn't know that, I could divide the numerator by the denominator. Either way, I'm going to get 0.75, which is 75 hundredths. Now the 5/6. 5/6 doesn't work as easily, but that's all right. So we're going to divide the numerator, top in, bottom out, divide the numerator by the denominator. Okay. So 6 won't go into 5. Add a decimal. I'm going to erase this on the bottom so I have room. We're still least to greatest. We'll remember that for later. Add a 0. 6 will go into 58 times. 8 times 6 is 48. Subtract and I get a 2. I'm going to add another 0, bring it down. 6 will go into 23 times. I'm going to extend that bar. 3 times 6 is 18. Subtract, I get 2. And hopefully you notice the pattern. This 3 is going to repeat. It is a repeating decimal. So above the 1, 3, or the other 3. So 5/6 is 0.8333333. 3 goes on forever. Put the bar above it. All right, so I'm going to erase some of this work so I have room. Let us know that this is equivalent to, top in, bottom out, is equal to. Now the problem with this decimal is I can't add enough 3s. It goes on forever, but that's okay. I don't have to, because if I line them up by the place value, I can still compare, and I don't have to put all the 3s. So again, I'm going to run the bottom. I'm going to write least to greatest. So if I'm looking for, now notice, before I begin, notice on the 0.8, I added 2 zeros. And on the 0.75, 75 hundredths, I added 1 0. Why? Because I wanted the same amount of numbers for each value I'm comparing. I have 3 numbers here, 3 numbers here, excluding the 0 on the left, and 3 numbers here. Okay? This makes it easier to compare. So first, let's look for the tenths place. Tenths place. Okay? I'm comparing an 8, a 7, and an 8. So this one's easy. This, I'm going to circle this in yellow. This will be the least value. So the least is 0.5 or 75%. Get this out of the way. Now my next one, I'm comparing an 8 and an 8, so they're both the same. And then I'll go to the hundredths place. I have a 0 and a 3. So obviously this is kind of easy because, again, once we I added the 2 zeros on the 8 tenths, 8 tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 800 thousandths. It's easy to compare these two numbers. 0 definitely is less than 3, so my next number will be 0.88 tenths. I'm going to write this in black so you can see it a little better. That is the next number. So obviously my last number, or my greatest number, I'm going to write this in, let's do black, okay, will be 5, 6, 4.83333, and that is my greatest number. So, how did I compare and order these numbers? First, I got to pay attention least to greatest, greatest to least. Sometimes I'll do ascending, which means least to greatest because you're going up from a small number to a bigger number, or greatest to least, or descending because you're going from a big number up here, descending to a smaller number. I convert them all the numbers. Me personally, I like converting them into a decimal. Line up the place value, add extra zeros, because again you can add as many zeros to the right of the decimal as needed. Line up my place value and then compare the numbers and just pay attention to what order they're asking for. All right, so on this one, now comparing and ordering positive numbers, and those numbers before were rational numbers, comparing positive and negative numbers becomes a little more complicated. So, but before we get into that, let's go ahead and convert all of these numbers into decimals. So 2/3, negative 2/3 is, divide the numerator. I'm going to forget that negative sign for 1 second. I'm going to divide the numerator by the denominator, and I'm going to get like that problem before. Hopefully we notice a pattern that 6 repeats. So 2 divided by 3 is 0.6 with the bar above it. All right. 66%. Percent means out of 100. So I'm going to draw the line down here. 66% is 66 out of 100. If we know hundredths, if we know our place value, 66 hundredths is 66 hundredths. Circle these so we know. Now 3/4, negative 3/4. Oh, and by the way, I didn't write this earlier. This one was negative because the original number was negative. All right, so the next one is already written as a decimal, so that's kind of easy. Negative 67 hundredths is negative 67 hundredths. And the last one, 3/4. Hopefully we know this off the top of our head. If we had 3/4 out of 4, we would have 75 cents, 75 hundredths, and it's negative because our original number started off as negative. So I'm going to erase all of this so we have room, and underneath it I'm going to write these numbers. So we have negative 0.6, the bar above it. We have 0.66. We have negative 0.67, negative 67 hundredths, and negative 75 hundredths. Now, why did I draw a number line? A number line, we're going to use a number line to place these values on the number line. Now, if the numbers are positive, the greater the value, the farther right it is on the number line. If the number is negative, the greater the value, the farther left. I shouldn't say greater the value, but the bigger the number. Well, dealing with absolute value, the bigger the number, the farther left. The way I like to think of this is money. If it's positive, I want a bigger number. The bigger it is, if that's money I have, the bigger it is, the better it is. If it's negative and it's money I owe, I don't want a big number. That means I owe a lot of money. So the smaller and the bigger it is, the farther left it is. The smaller it becomes, means it's getting closer to 0 and edging ever closer to the positive numbers. So this right here, I would have rather owe -7, so it would be closer to 0 than -70. -70 way over here. And I definitely wouldn't, I would rather owe $7 than -70, and that's a 7 right there. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. So again, we use the number line to help compare. If you get confused with negative numbers, again, just think of owing money. You would rather owe less than owe more. I would rather owe $1. $1 would be, owing is negative. I would rather owe $1 than $4. So -1 is greater than -4. Because again, 1 is farther right on the number line. I would rather owe $1 than $4. It's farther right on the number line, so -1 is actually greater than -4. So let's compare these numbers, and let's put these, let's just go ahead and put them on the number line. We don't have to worry about greatest to least, or least to greatest. So I'm going to put 0 about in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to put -1 here and +1 here. And I'll put -1/2 and +1/2, or 0.5. All right, so I need to figure out where do these numbers fall on the number line. So if I can put them on the number line correctly, putting them in order from least to greatest or greatest to least is really easy. So first we have 0.66. Now this is positive, and is it greater than 0.5 or less than? Obviously 66 cents would be greater than 50 cents. 66 hundredths is greater than 50 hundredths, but it's obviously less than 1 whole. So I'm going to put that right around here. And we'll label this A, and this will be my A. Okay, so 66 hundredths would go right around here because it's a little less than 75 hundredths. And so it's in between 75 hundredths. This, I'll draw this as blue. 75 hundredths is my blue line. 66 hundredths would be between 1/2 and 75 hundredths. And so what would be falling between them? So I put A right there. Let me erase some of these numbers. Let's worry about, I don't know why I started off with that number. Let's go to -2/3, which is -0.6 with a bar above it. I'm just going to write 2 6s because they would go on forever. But that will be sufficient on this problem. So then I have to ask, where is -66 hundredths going to fall? Well, if I remember, it's similar to owing money. -50 hundredths would be greater than -66 hundredths. But isn't 66 greater than 50? It is if the numbers were positive. If the numbers are negative, 50 hundredths, -0.50, would be greater, so it would be farther right. That means -66 hundredths would be to the left of -1/2. So I'm going to draw a red line here. Well, let me label -75 hundredths, which kind of gives something away. Because -75 hundredths is in between owing 50 cents, which is here, and owing $1, which is here. So I know owing 66 cents would be right around, we'll do this one in green too, would be right around here. So -2/3, which is -0.666, and again it goes on forever, but for this problem, that's all right. -66 hundredths, B, would end up right around there. Because again, -66 hundredths is in between -75 hundredths and -50 hundredths. All right, so we've done those. Now let's worry about C. Now C negative 0.67. It's already a decimal, it's easy. So I have to figure out, is it going to go to the left of B? Because I know negative 60, let me do this in a different color, negative 66 hundredths and negative 0.67. They're really close to one another. But again, even though this 6 goes on forever, doesn't matter, because I can add zeros. And what would I rather? Oh, if we're comparing the place value, obviously the 7 is greater than the 6. So would I rather owe 66 cents or 67 cents? Well, obviously I'd rather owe 66 cents, so that means negative 0.67 is less than negative 0.66, and it's less than it goes to the left on the number line. Greater numbers go to the right. The greater the value, the farther right it is. The less the value, the farther left it goes on the number line. So C, I'm going to do this in red. C will go really close to B, and it will be right there. All right, negative 3/4. We're going to do this in black. This will be our D. Now we've already done it, and it goes right here. Why? Negative 3/4 is negative 0.75. Negative 75 hundredths. It'd be like owing 75 cents, and 75 cents is 3/4 out of 2. I'm sorry, out of 4. So we have right here, we have owing 50 cents. We owing $1. This would be owing 75 cents. So D would go right here to the left of C. All right, so we went over a lot in this video. So we started off with comparing, ordering real numbers. Again, it's best to find them, put them all into the same format, fractions, decimals, percent. I like decimals. I'll leave that up to you. How do you turn a decimal? You just read the place value, keep it as is. A percent, percent's out of 100. And so once it's out of 100, 75 hundredths is easy to convert into 75 hundredths. I added the 0 because I need it for that particular problem. A fraction, divide the numerator by the denominator, line up the place values on the numbers, and then go by tenths, hundredths, thousandths until you can figure out which one is the least or which one is the greatest. On this one, when I placed them on a number line, which a number line can help me figure out which one's the least or greatest, or if I'm just comparing them. Sometimes on certain questions, they'll ask you to place them on a number line. Turn them all into decimals. Once you've done that, again, if the number is positive, the greater the bigger the number, the farther right it is. If it's a smaller number and it's positive, the closer to 0 it gets. When the numbers are negative, it works the opposite. When the bigger the number it is, the farther left. The smaller the negative number is, the closer to 0. Because again, think about absolute value, how the distance a number is from 0. Whether it's positive or negative, that's going to determine how far it is from 0. And if it's negative, it goes on the left. If it's positive, it goes on the right. And I always think of negative numbers, I think of owing money. I would rather owe a small amount of money, which again, closer to 0, than owing a big amount of money, which would be way left on the number line. And of course, place them on the number line, and that can help you with ordering and comparing. So hopefully this video has helped. If you have any questions or concerns, you can email me at jhewlett@leisd.ws. Thanks, and have a great day.